Hello, my friends, and welcome. Welcome to week 5 of our April Poetry Celebration. I'm just bedazzled that we have arrived at the end of the month, and it's been a wonderful one. A real treasure trove of poems and community and love. So we have some great poems by our community poets. I'm going to dive right into those, and you may be excited that I'll be revealing the prize winners of this year's prizes. So more on that in a little bit. So we had another wonderful crop of poems this week, and many of them meditate on love of poetry and love of nature. So I'm going to start with a couple of those. This first one is by Anjum, and it's called Poetry. A tiny green leaf, a tiny worm crawling up a tree trunk, struggling, slipping, moving up again. Life in its minutest form is beautiful. It inspires awe, strikes the eye, touches the heart and soul. When thoughts transform into words, it becomes the poem of poetry. See the tree form a pattern. See the colors of the sky. See the curve of the hillside, and follow the sunlight and the shade through the valley, across the glade. How dwellings are made, gardens laid and flowers planted, fragrance embedded, fruit granted. All these bright and beautiful things are nature's poetic wings. And so I pick up my pen, sometimes my paintbrush, and try to capture the truth I see, the real as it is in light and hue. If I have the words, I may do good. If I have the love and the feeling and gratitude fills my soul, I may be a writer and a poet. For all nature is beautiful in form and scenery. On water, sea, land, or trees, all nature is majestic. All nature is poetry. Thank you, Anjum, for that very much. Here's a charming poem by my friend Anne. And this is, it doesn't have a title, but the beginning sort of is the title. Sola says, freedom is laughing out loud, dancing beyond the walls of your bedroom, singing in the hallways, jumping through a sprinkler on a hot day, racing boys, eating fried snacks in a crowd, hiking your skirt above your knees and letting the wind tangle your hair, riding bikes with your friends, going to school. Love is when a person feels safe to be free. Yes, love and freedom and safety. Delicious. Thank you, Anne. My friend Betsy wrote a poem I asked last week, you might remember, as our spark, to write a poem about when love sparked renewal. And here is a beautiful poem on that theme, and it's called 3 Strands of Me by Betsy. The renewal came after an unraveling, like a cord of jute separated from the rope work of marriage. I was shredded. Now a single strand laid out on our dining room carpet, blind in darkness. But I held on to my strand, twisting it together as I pulled up with a newfound courage until that first frayed piece was reinforced. The steadfast support of family and caring friends brought laughter back, gathering more fibers, which rolled into a twine with empathy and understanding. I soon had 2 yarns of cordage. The third length, a gift from the universe, was the unexpected discovery of my singing voice. That part, a spin of vibrato, resonance, and pitch, was a treasure chest of ability unknown to me. I then had 3 beautiful strands, each strong and pliable enough to plait my own rope work. This renewed winding, embracing hope, love, and dreams, created a sense of worth that would serve as my lifeline for years to come. Bravo, my friend. That is powerful. That is a powerful poem. And, you know, there's always, as I said last week, There's always sparks. Every poem has sparks. This poem gives us a beautiful spark. You might look and think, what are the 3 strands of my life? The 3 strands that give it strength and hope and endurance and see. And I will say, Betsy's a beautiful singer. So I love that she found that gift. So beautiful. My dear Caitlin wrote this poem about love and renewal. And it's such a wonderful moment to enter into. At the desk, slouching, nearly melting into a frustrated gray and silly puddle, you know, the type of moment when you're in some sort of slog, a quick slap to the cheeks to wake up the senses. Just then, when you've run out of eye and floor exercises to jazz up your morning, your roommate's mom, who has sported bulky and colorful cartoon sweaters since her arrival from Germany, carries a tray of chocolate cookies and tea to your door. With a knowing face, she knocks softly. You beam, smiling as if this was a long-planned surprise. You melt into a sunnier, grateful puddle, renewed by her gracious offering. Isn't it true that small moments like these stay with us, mend us? Isn't it true that small moments like these stay with us, mend us? It is true, Caitlin. You're right. Those moments mean all. They make everything all right, really. Thank you for that. Miriam wrote a poem to all of us, to Kate Chadbourne and the Poetry Celebration Poets. And this is really about her own renewal as a poet over this last month. And that brought such joy to me. It's called From the Heart. I never thought of myself as a poet before. The last poem I wrote was a translation buried in my past, my personal lore. But now I wonder, first stage of gestation? I kept reading poetry and began writing prose. I wrote novels, short stories, and even song lyrics. The new country and language I chose helped silence old inner critics. And yet, I thought my poetry was dead. Until one day you shared your invitation. You asked me to write poetry once more. I ignored it at first. After all, I needed all inspiration for blog posts and recipes and mousepad decor. But the question was enough. The dam was gone. Because poetry cannot die, I was never done. Poetry is thoughts, emotions, and feelings. It is vibration, joy, peace, and creation. Thank you for teaching me to care once more. Thanks for the support, the cheer, and inspiration, for the safe space to share what I've never shared before, and for rekindling love and even elation. Poetry is love. It is me and it is you. Poetry, it is who we are, not what we do. So from the heart, let me thank you for being you. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you very much. I have loved reading your poems, all of your poems, this month. My friend Mike wrote a love poem for his wife, and I just loved it. It's called Every Day for My Wife. Every day is a challenge. Every day is a blessing. Every day is an adventure. Every day is a comfort. Every day is one out of over 18,000. Every day in 50 years is one more to be savored. I love you every day. Bravo. They're a wonderful couple. Another wonderful couple, my friend Tricia, wrote this poem called Old Love Renewed. First sweet tastes of love, eyes, mouths, hearts, and blessed heat, pairing of two lives. Long love lasts the time, both of hardship and of sweet, on which hearts rely. Joined thus we refresh those vows that pricked the beats, that time cannot belie. Bravo. I love that, Tricia. Old love renewed. It's always to us. And finally, here's again, Skia gave us a poem weeks ago that many of you commented on and loved, in which she admits that sometimes love is difficult. And in this poem, she marks the coming and going of love. It's a marvelous poem. It's called With Love to Love by Skia. Oh, you, bubbly love, loudly popping thy cork, always flowing out of bounds. Such a messy guest. Yet nothing feels better than your arrival, or worse than your departure. I love that, Skia. Nothing feels better than your arrival or worse than your departure. And again, as we've talked about, the even so, such a messy guest, yet nothing feels better than your arrival or worse than your departure. Hear, hear. So many wonderful poems. Thank you all. I would love to read every poem you send. Thank you for sending them. Now, without further ado, again, some of you are going to receive this marvelous notebook. It has just been such a good friend to me. Again, the messy drafts, the wonderful, wonderful paper. I've never seen a notebook that has the spiral binding inside, so it's protected and it doesn't turn into a big old mess, which they often do. So I want to say again here, thank you, Jumping Fox Design. And without further ado, let me reveal the prize winners. Now, just to say, how did I do this? There are all kinds of randomizers online, and again, if you wrote one poem, I put your name in once. If you wrote poems every week, I put your name in 4 times. And so the prize winners for the 3 Jumping Fox Design notebooks are Tony, Sarah F, and Skia. So I'll be in touch, and Jumping Fox will be in touch about how to get those notebooks to you. Now, again, we've been so lucky we have more prizes this year than ever, and that is thanks to Dana Wilde, who is a marvelous human being, a great teacher, an inspiration. And this book, I just want to say again, if you're interested in thinking about directing your thoughts in a way that feels wonderful, I can't say enough good things about this book. I just think it's really worth reading and rereading. So Dana Wilde has given us prizes, and we have 5 gift cards for Amazon, which you might decide to buy a Jumping Fox Design notebook or a book of poems. Totally up to you. We have 5 gift cards, and those are going to Alice, to Deb, to Terry, to Miriam, and to Anjum. So congratulations to everybody and to everyone who has been sending us poems all month, for sure. And finally, our youth prize. We have had 1 youth, and so Declan, as ever, we love you, and we're so happy that you are going to receive a Jumping Fox Design notebook as well. Bravo, everybody. Bravo. You are all winners. I know that sounds a little silly to say, but I really mean it. You really are. So I want to share with you one last sort of spark. This is a book I really love, The Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart, a poetry anthology. As you can see, Robert Bly, James Hillman, and Michael Mead are the editors. Robert Bly, a powerful poet and translator. So I want to share with you today 3 little short poems about loving the world in different ways, from different angles. You may know this poem. I find it very powerful. It's by Gerard Manley Hopkins, and it's called God's Grandeur. Now, however you want to enter this poem, I just want to say, please take it in any way. If you're thinking nature as the divine as the divine, however you want to take it. Really, why I love this poem is it reminds me of the grandeur of the created world, the world. I find it beautiful. God's grandeur. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. it gathers to a greatness, like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then now not wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. Let's have that one again, sorry. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights of the black west went, oh, morning, as the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. And for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, oh, morning at the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. Renewal. That is love's renewal in the world. Nature's renewal. I've always said I'm a pantheist. It's all holy to me. Certainly the natural world. And back around to Anjum's poem that nature itself is poetry. Oh, there's so much in there. The music of that. And again, we've talked about these sort of turns in a poem. And for all this, the whole first poem, part of the poem is we've really, sullied. We can really, as human beings, sully this world. And yet, and for all this, nature is never spent. So I love that. I love all of this. Here's another one that shows love for a creature that is often left out of the raptures. This poem is by Harry Martinson and it's translated by Robert Bly, and it's called The Earthworm. Who really respects the earthworm, the farm worker far under the grass in the soil? He keeps the earth always changing. He works entirely full of soil, speechless with soil, and blind. He is the underneath farmer, the underground one, where the fields are getting on their harvest clothes. Who really respects him, this deep and calm earth worker, this deathless, gray, tiny farmer in the planet's soil? Well, we respect him, don't we? So I thought from this, again, to continue our theme of love, to notice the goodness, to notice the love, and to amplify it through poetry. Wonderful. A poem like that is so welcome. And finally, here is just a very short little piece. This is Chippewa music, adapted from the translation of Francis Densmore. It's tiny, but I love it. Sometimes I go about pitying myself. Sometimes I go about pitying myself, and all the time I am being carried on great winds across the sky. Sometimes I go about pitying myself, and all the time I am being carried on great winds across the sky. That sense of being lifted, that the world itself, that reality, that nature, that other people, that the woven experience of life that we're having at all times is actually carrying us. I think that's worth a lot more poems, if you ask me. So, again, the rag and bone shop of the heart. It's absolutely, as you can see, jammed with great poems. Oh, it's a world of great poems. I want to finish, if with one poem that I wrote earlier in the month and edited and shaped up. And it's just another love poem. It's called Tattoo. We are printed all over with love. The anchors and owls, the twining ivy, the eagle on one shoulder with wings outstretched. Each fleeting flash of love needled on our skin in a shape the heart has made. Some images fade or sink, rusty black or muddy green, hidden now, behind or underneath, but they never entirely disappear. We breathe our histories, we sweat them and wash them and lay them down to rest, rouse them at dawn to feel the sun's touch and meet the day's calling. No matter how crowded the canvas, there is room for one more impression and another and yet another. Such beauty in our tangled ink, such majesty and tenderness in these illustrated stories love tells upon us. What a month, my friends. I want to go on forever writing love poems, and that's sort of my spark and dare for you. Let's keep writing love poems. Let's write love poems that tell the truth as we see it, that don't shy from saying even so, that don't shy from saying yes, it's difficult, and it's beautiful, and it's a struggle, and it's worth it. All of the ands, all of it is welcome. We don't have to edit out any of the parts that we find difficult, but to enter into that, I think, is to meet with something essential. And that really is the job of poetry, I think, is to meet with that gives us life, and also perhaps that tells the truth and also renews us. And I will say, for me, this month has been beautiful and renewing. And I'm grateful to you, my friends. I'm grateful for your poems and your presence and the community that we have been building and enjoying. I'm grateful for all of your comments and your appreciation for one another and the way that you let each other's poems inspire and drive your own poetry. I'm grateful very much to Dana Wilde and to Jumping Fox Design. I'm grateful to the Academy of American Poets, who, just so you can see here, they produce a poem poster every year that has been hanging behind me for the last several weeks. I'm also grateful to all the poets whose poems we've learned from this year. So a marvelous month, and thank you all. Please, if you will, like this, share it, subscribe, comment. Let's keep the energy here. We have another day. I'll be writing another poem today and tomorrow. And let's keep going with poetry forever. That's my plan anyway. So I'm planning actually to do a little bit more on this channel with poetry and inspiration. And your presence here is actually really helpful. So my friends, have a wonderful year of poetry, reading it, writing it, celebrating it. And thank you again, all of you. Until next time.